All right, once your clay is centered, you can do the center hole and also pull the floor. And that's what this video is. These motions that you do to put the center hole in and pull the floor still kind of lean on the left side of the body. All right, so the first thing you want to do is make sure your left hand is stable and comfortable and supporting the clay. And with the right hand, you want to make this shape, and you're going to want to anchor the thumb kind of in this divot right here above your thumb. And the tip of your pointer finger is going to be on the center of the clay at the top so that it's not moving around. This is the same as centering with speed. You're going to go at full speed, and once you're ready and your clay is wet and slippery, you want to make your hand really rigid and really tight. You do not want it to move a lot. And you're going to put it just right at the top, and you're going to slowly push down and keep it controlled. And notice how I'm going in kind of at an angle. I'm not going directly down because that makes it more difficult to keep it stable. Sometimes you have to put a little bit of extra water in so it's not as dry and there's not as much friction. But you want to go deep enough so that there's maybe like half an inch of clay between the bat and like the top of the clay, because you want there to be a floor for your cylinder. And a way to measure this is by taking your needle tool and sticking it in, and then you put your finger to the very bottom and then you pull it out, and you can see how much space you have between the bottom of the clay and the bat. Once you feel like you've done that and you're ready, you can move on to pulling the floor. This is also going to be at full speed, and your left hand is going to be in the same position. Your thumb is still going to be anchored into that spot, but what you're going to do with your fingers, you can use 2 or 3 fingers. I use 2 fingers because you usually use like 3, 4, even your whole hand when you have like a lot of clay. So 2 fingers will probably work. Make sure your clay is wet and slippery, and then you're going to anchor it, keep it really rigid, make a hook, go to the bottom, and you're going to pull towards you at 6 o'clock. This is kind of a quick step sometimes. You can take your time when you're doing it. And then you want to smooth out the bottom with your sponge. Make sure it's nice and flat. And another thing you want to make sure is that you have a 90-degree angle like between the floor and the wall. This is so you can maximize the amount of clay that you use to pull the walls, and also so that it just is nice and not bottom heavy. And when I say bottom heavy, that just means there's not a lot of clay at the bottom of it. In throwing and ceramics in general, potters try to make their pots and forms and pieces of art as light as possible. You don't want anything really chunky, unless you're like making a paperweight or something, I guess. You want the size of the hole to be about the width of a soup can. And then once you have that, you are good to pull the walls. And that is all for this video. All right, y'all. This video is for pulling the walls. Pulling the walls is arguably one of the most difficult steps in pottery, next to centering. But that's why we're spending so much time on it. That's why we're spending like a full week on it. I want y'all to be really patient with this and just keep working at it, because no one gets this right away. Okay, so you have centered, you have put in your center hole, and you have pulled the floor, and now you're ready to pull the wall. You want your wheel to be at medium speed when you're doing this. Instead of being on the left side of the wheel like we were before, we are going to switch to more the right side. Our left hand is going to be on the inside. Our right hand is going to be on the outside, and I like to hold a sponge with my right hand. I think a lot of people usually do. If you find that you don't prefer that, you can totally not use one. But when you're first starting out, try using a sponge. You want your left hand to be anchored into the left side of your body, and you want your right arm to be kind of anchored into your hip, also the side of your body. You want your arms and hands to be really stable and very controlled when you're doing these movements. So medium speed, put your hands at 3 o'clock, and you're gonna apply pressure from both sides, kind of like you're pinching and also pulling up. Now, the speed at which you pull up, you kind of have to figure out. It usually depends on how fast you're going with the wheel. Not everyone will be going the exact same speed, and therefore you won't be pulling this wall at the same speed. So you kind of have to figure that out and just feel it out. But yeah. So when you get to the top of the pot, I don't want you to pull up right away. I want you to just release it slowly, kind of like that, because when you pull up, it kind of pinches the top and then it makes the top really thin, and that is not what you want. So the idea when you're pulling the walls is that you're bringing the clay from the bottom to the top. And it sounds easy, but like I said, it's a little difficult. When you're pulling the walls, I only want you to do it 3 times. And this is because I want y'all to be as productive as possible. I struggle with this so much. I spend so much time on one cylinder or one piece of art, and then I literally get nothing else done. So I want you to do 3 pulls. Don't make them quick or anything. Still keep it controlled and slow. But once you've done your 3 pulls, I want you to move on to the next one and don't waste any more time. I would rather have you have multiple shitty pots than only 1 or 2 shitty pots that are slightly better, because all these in the beginning will not turn out great. Sometimes after I've pulled the walls, I like to smooth out the top by pinching it just a little bit, very lightly, and then putting my sponge on it, and it smooths it right out. Also, when you're pulling the walls, you want to make sure you're applying pressure evenly on both sides. If you apply more pressure on your inside hand, it's going to kind of turn into a funnel shape. When you apply too much pressure on your outside hand, it will become like a cone. A lot of times when starting out, people tend to make like a funnel shape. So just make sure, like, watch where you're applying pressure and the shape that your cylinder is becoming, and then adjust as needed. Okay, so once you've done your 3rd and final pull, you're going to stop the wheel, you're going to take your sponge, you're going to put it in the middle and make sure you're getting all the excess water out, put it in your bucket, and then you are going to take your wire tool, kind of twist it, make sure it's secure, put it evenly on the top, and then slice through down the middle, and then pull towards you. Usually I would have you trim and undercut so you can actually cut it off and keep it, but right now we're still just working on perfecting it. So this is to kind of examine how you did and how you can improve. So once you've cut it, you're gonna pull it back and you're gonna look at it. This way you can see if there's any air bubbles. You can see how thick you made the bottom and the walls. And you can also see, like, if you made a good 90-degree angle. Mine, I probably could have made the walls a little thinner and taller. Not much though, actually. And I probably could have made a better 90-degree angle. But just look at this and try to make the next one better. Once you've looked at it, you can cut the rest of it off, bunch it up, throw it to the side, and take your wooden knife and put pressure on this to like get it off and spin the wheel. And then you're going to want to clean the wheel and move right on to your next ball of clay. And make sure it's dry before you put on your next ball of clay, or else it kind of slips off. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Thanks, y'all.